A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I want A+ English because it's so much fun. English education for you and everyone, so come along. Learn some grammar, learn a phrase, learn something new every day. Learn the A+ way. Hey, it's time to start the show. Are you ready? Good, 'cause here we go. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I want A+ English.
Hi everybody, welcome back to A+ English. I'm Pat.
I'm Elsie.
And we're on day 2 of our article about the life of American artist Edward Hopper. We found out about his growing up being a good artist, but then having to work for marketing businesses, which he hated.
Right, he didn't like it, so he would go to Paris.
To escape, but he didn't follow all the other Parisian artists and their styles. He didn't know who Picasso was, so he did his own thing.
He developed his own style.
Yeah, now that can be a difficult and lonely thing to do, and that leads to our warm-up question. Do you ever feel lonely? What do you do to feel better?
I think we all feel lonely sometimes.
Not as much as now I used to.
Oh, yes.
Now I quite look forward to being...
Now you're very busy,
Yeah,
right?
Being alone is quite a nice change at some point for me.
So what do I do when I feel lonely? I would maybe listen to music.
Yes, I would do that.
Go work out.
Yeah, read, write, do something like that. Something that makes me feel happy and stuff that you really only can do when you're alone.
Right, or go shopping by myself.
Okay, well that's us. What about you guys? What do you do if you feel lonely? How do you cheer yourself up? And now join us for part 2 of our article about Edward Hopper.
The life of American artist Edward Hopper. Warm-up question. Do you ever feel lonely? What do you do to feel better?
Hopper was a quiet man who liked to spend time alone. This influenced his style. He loved to go to the movies by himself. Movie theaters became the scene for many of Hopper's paintings. Hopper's works show the loneliness of American life at the time. Nighthawks, Automat, and Office at Night are good examples of this. Hopper used light and shadow to give a strong mood. Hopper is now known as one of the greatest American realism artists. His works helped to define American art of the 20th century. Check out some of Hopper's works. You'll see why he has earned his place in the history of American art.
So why are we talking about being lonely or being alone? Well, we see in the article, Hopper was a quiet man who liked to spend time alone.
OK, 那我们马上要看到 alone 这个字的用法哦。Let's take a look. Alone 在课文当中啊是个副词，代表独自地，也就是 by oneself。那问同学们一个问题 ：Do you like to study alone or with your friends？ 你喜欢自己一个人读书，还是跟朋友一起呢？那如果你今天想要自己一个人，不想要别人来打扰你，你可以跟他说 Leave me alone。那另外呢 alone 还可以当作形容词用，像是我们可以说 she likes to be alone sometimes， 代表她有的时候想要自己一个人。But when you are alone at home, you might feel lonely。 你自己在家的时候可能会觉得孤单寂寞。lonely 这个形容词代表的是寂寞的、孤单的。那单字例句给的是呢 I don't like going out alone at night. I don't feel safe。 我不喜欢晚上独自一个人外出，我觉得不安全。
So if you think about being in class, you'd have different kinds of class projects. For some class projects, we must work alone, by ourselves, one person. But I like it when we can work in groups.
So Hopper here likes to spend time alone. 他喜欢独处。
Yeah, just go off by himself or paint or look around, crowd watch, that kind of stuff. And we see this influenced his style.
Influence 这边当动词用，代表影响。 这也影响了他的画风。
Yeah, your life kind of influences what you do. Something affects you, makes you do things a certain way. For example, Ryan is influenced by his older brother Jerry. He wants to play basketball all the time, just like Jerry does. So what kind of things did Hopper do alone? We see in the article he loved to go to the movies by himself.
他喜欢独自去看电影。
Is that something you've ever done, gone by yourself?
Never.
Never?
Never.
I've done it a few times when I've wanted to see a movie and my wife is really not bothered, then especially with the son, then I would go very late at night.
Oh.
Like, make sure he's in bed asleep. I go to the movies at like 10 o'clock, come back after midnight, and so she's fine by herself and I get to watch the movie.
Right, she can have some alone time too.
Yeah, she can have some peace and quiet from me.
OK， 所以呢，喜欢独自去看电影的 Hopper 对他的 style 有什么样的影响呢？ How did that influence his style?
Well, we see in the article that movie theaters became the scene for many of Hopper's paintings.
Movie theaters 电影院变成了什么呢？我们看到这个名词 scene 什么意思 ？Let's find out.Scene 这个名词呢是场景、景色，那发音要注意哦，字首的 sc 合并变成 s 的声音就可以了。所以我们说 Hopper 喜欢画电影院的场景，那除了电影院的场景，还有像是街景 street scenes 也是艺术家喜欢画的内容。那再来戏剧当中的第一幕、第二幕，我们可以说是 scene 1、scene 2。那电影中的场景也是 scene。For example.This movie has a lot of violent scenes， 代表这部电影有很多的暴力场景。那单字例句给的是呢 ，Ellie loves to draw scenes of her local beach。她喜欢画她当地的海景。
Yeah, we often think of scenes for parts of a film or a TV show, or this scene of the play takes place on a boat, something like that. But here we just mean what is the kind of background? Where is this painting? What's it a painting of? You know, is the scene outside? Is it a cafe? Is it a big room in a big fancy house? That kind of thing.
OK， 那再来我们还看到 painting 这个名词指的是油画。
That's what we talk about. We don't often say pictures because that could mean like a photo or a drawing or all sorts. But a painting is something that gets painted. We could say The Last Supper is a very famous painting by Leonardo da Vinci.
也就是最后的晚餐那幅画。
Exactly. So, why did this kind of movie theaters alone and being alone, what else did it do for Hopper's art? What did it show? Well, Hopper's works show the loneliness of American life at the time. So at that time he was working, he kind of showed how lonely it was at times to be an American.
我们刚好提到 lonely 这个形容词是孤单寂寞的，那这边呢把它变成了名词的形式，字尾的 y 拿掉，加上 I 再加上 ness， 所以这边说到的是他的作品显示了当时孤独的美国生活。
Because at this time, a lot of jobs were moving to the cities, people would work at nights, everything about life was changing, and instead of being all together as a group a lot of the time, people would be going out, living by their own, working alone at strange hours, and the whole life was changing and disconnecting people a bit. The article says Nighthawks, Automat, and Office at Night are good examples of this, and we'll look at those later.
And these were all painted by Hopper. 夜游者、自动贩卖店还有办公室之夜，这些都是 Hopper 的作品，而且都是很好的例子。
And what else did he do? We see Hopper used light and shadow to give a strong mood.
Shadow 我们知道是阴影，那这个 to give a strong mood 是什么意思？我们等一下会看到。
So shadows is just like the black shape behind you when you block the light. So we could say the shadows grew longer as the sun went down. But in art and painting, it's the darker parts. And sometimes it's just because that's what would be dark in real life, but sometimes it shows things. For example, the shadow in this painting is meant to mean death.
那 Hopper 呢，他擅长使用光和影。 来给这幅画 a strong mood。strong 是强烈的，那这个 mood 是什么样的名词呢？ Let's find out。Mood 这个名词呢是心境、情绪，所以我们可以说 the weather affects our mood， 代表天气会影响我们的情绪。那一个人情绪好、心情好，或情绪糟、心情不好，该怎么说呢？ Be in a good mood， 或者是 be in a bad mood. For example, it's hard to cheer him up. It seems that he's always in a bad mood. 要让他开心好像很难，他总是心情不好。那这样的人呢，你可以用 moody 来形容他 ，M-O-O-D 再加上一个 Y。A moody person 就是郁郁寡欢的人。那单词例句给的是呢 Ryan is in a bad mood because he has lots of homework to do. Ryan 心情不好，因为他有很多的作业要做。
So in a painting, you can use colors and light and dark to make a mood. Movies have a more easy way. The music in this part of the movie gives it a sad mood. You think about how often movies use a bit of music to change the mood, happy, sad, exciting, and so on.
那这边说到 Hopper 呢，擅长使用光晕来表示强烈的情感。
So we said Hopper wasn't really famous at that point, but now the article says Hopper is now known as one of the greatest American realism artists.
Be known as 代表的是以点点点知名，让大家都知道。所以我们可以说，像是 New York City is also known as the Big Apple， 代表纽约还有 the Big Apple 这个名字。那我们先进到 Magic Box 听讲师讲解 be known as 的用法。
Magic
Box。Hello， 大家好，我是艾赛。前几天呢，跟朋友在吃饭聊天的时候，才得知我们其中的一个高中同班同学，最近呢，在国际的这个设计比赛大奖或者比赛上获得一个大奖，所以他在世界上现在算是非常知名的设计师喽。Jason is known as a fashion designer around the world now。Jason 呢，在世界上现在是以时尚设计师而闻名哦，真的是非常替他开心。希望他之后呢，可以继续得奖。好啦，那在刚刚那个例句里面呢，有提到今天要教的这个片语就是 be known as， 那就是这个意思呢，就是以点点点闻名这样的一个意思哦。那 known 这个字呢，本身其实我们就可以把它当作形容词来使用，那它的意思就是闻名的或者是知名的。那 as 后面呢，通常我们会加上一个身份，表示呢，因为这个身份而闻名。那假如说呢，今天呢，我们看到一个片语是 be known for 的话呢 ，for 后面我们要加上的是一个原因。表示呢，它是因为这个原因而闻名哦。比方说呢 ，Meryl Streep is known for her acting skills。Meryl Streep 因为她的这个专业演技呢而闻名。那当然呢，假如说我们今天把这个 known 替换成大家比较知道，比如说像是 famous 著名的、出名的，也是可以的。最后呢，假如说我们今天在这个 known 前面加上一个 well。变成一个 well known， 那 well known 中间是有一个 hyphen 的，那这个字呢也是当作形容词来使用，表示为众所皆知的。比方说呢 ，a well known actress， 著名的女演员。那假如说呢，我们这个 well known 呢，如果我们今天不是放在名词前面的话呢，我们在这两个字之间呢，我们就不会加上 hyphen 哦。比方说呢 ，she is well known for her cooking skills， 她因为她的这个厨艺呢而闻名。好啦，那希望你们今天都有学会今天的这个 Magic Box 哦，所以我们下次见，拜拜。
好啦，那再来我们要看到 realism 这个名词，代表的是现实主义，所以就是非抽象的，它描绘的东西都是真实存在的，这个就是现实主义。所以课文说到 Hopper 现在是最棒的美国现实主义艺术家之一。
So realism is a particular kind of art. We might call it a school or a style. And it's art that showed the real lives of real people around the right time. You're not trying to make these like dreamlike pictures or conjure up things with your imagination. No, you're going real details. This is what it's really like. These are normal people, not kings or queens or made up people. This is just something. It's kind of like a photo would show. So realism pictures are often like photos.
没错，就像照片一样，显示出当时最真实的样貌。
Okay, and this was quite a cool thing. We see his works helped to define American art of the 20th century.
20th century 这个字什么意思呢？ Let's find out. century 这个名词呢是世纪的意思，也就是100年。那如果呢我们把这个年数往低一点的地方走，10年的话是 a decade， 那往高一点的地方1000年的话，那就是 millennium。那再来，当我们要表示第几个世纪的时候，前面 the 装上去，后面要加上的是叙述，再加上 century， 所以像是 the 18th century 第18个世纪。那再来，世纪的早期、中期、晚期，我们还可以在 the 后面接上 early、mid 或是 late， 加上刚用的 18th century。好，再来，单字例句给的是呢 My grandfather moved to the U.S. in the early 20th century in 1918。我的祖父在20世纪早期，也就是1918年的时候移居美国。
So we could say, for example, I was born in the 20th century. I'm fairly sure Elsie was as well, but we're now in the 21st century. So the article has kind of talked about Hopper's history, his art, and then it encourages you to check out some of Hopper's works.
Check out 代表看一看、瞧一瞧，所以有空的话呢，可以去看看他的作品。
Yeah, experience it. Look at the pictures. We could say, you should check out this movie. It's amazing. And why should you check out Hopper's work? The article says, you will see why he has earned his place in the history of American art.
Earn one's place， 那就是赢得一席之地。我们去看他作品，就可以知道他为什么这么样的厉害，这么样的伟大。
Yeah, in other words, you've done something good, you've made your reputation, and now everyone remembers you. For example, the young soccer player had a great game. He really earned his place in the team. He did the hard work, he did really well. Now you're in the team all the time. So that is Edward Hopper, but what about his art? Let's check some of it out in today's review time activity.
Review time.
Okay, so we've got the 3 pictures from the article. You'll be able to see them on the screen. Elsie and I will look at a paper copy here and try and use today's word power words, scene and mood, to talk about what is going on here. So we've got Nighthawks, that's our first one, quite a famous painting.
夜巡者的那一幅画。
So what is the scene?
Is it outside of like somebody's looking in a diner?
Yeah, it's a late night kind of coffee shop. The street is really dark outside, and you've got this little bit of light inside a cafe. People are drinking, but they're kind of just a few people sitting on their own. So
Right.
This guy looks pretty lonely.
But we can't really see their facial expressions, right?
Yeah, we talk about light and shadow. Almost all of the picture and quite a few of the people are in shadow. We don't know who they are. What are they doing there? Why are they out late at night? Are they working? Do they have families? We don't really know. They're just strangers in this tiny little cafe. Maybe the man and woman know each other. Maybe they've just met. But they all are probably pretty lonely.
Right.
That's American life.
And I think the shadow gives it a sad mood.
It does, yeah. Nobody's looking happy. They're not celebrating.
Or
They're
a
not
lonely mood.
partying, yeah. So what about this one? This is even more true. This is called automat, which you guys won't know this, but an automat, it's basically a restaurant with no workers. You would go in there, put money in a machine and get food out.
自动贩卖店。
Right, so we've just got, what's the scene?
So we see a woman sitting at the table,
Right.
maybe eating by herself, right?
Yeah, she's got a cup of tea or coffee or something. She doesn't look too happy.
She looks sad and lonely.
Right, she's kind of maybe dressed up as though she's been out, but she's on her own now.
Maybe she's tired and wants to find a place to rest.
Yeah, maybe she had a sad night, but maybe she can't go home. Maybe going home will be worse. So also, again, it's darkness all outside. There's a bit of light on her, but that's about it.
Right.
Okay. Final one then, we have office at night. So it's another night scene.
办公室的那一幅图画. Okay, so there are two people in the office, apparently.
But they're not talking, are
They're
they?
not talking.
They're not like, oh, it's the end of the day, let's have a chat before we go home.
So I think the man here is the boss and the woman is the secretary.
It looks like it, yeah, and she's noticed a piece of paper that he's dropped on the floor. He hasn't noticed it, so maybe they're thinking, should we interact here or...
Should I talk to him?
Right, we're kind of disconnected. I don't want to disturb him while he's busy. There's light coming in through the window, so there's maybe a night train going by. So again, there's the use of light here on this little scene, but not really on the two people. So yeah, light, shadow, and a sort of sad mood to this small office.
Right.
Okay, well that's some of the art. Check it out yourself. Look at the color pictures. They do make it a bit easier to see that stuff. Thanks for watching, everyone. For A+ English, I'm Pat.
I'm Elsie.
Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Life of American Artist Edward Hopper. Warm-up question. Do you ever feel lonely? What do you do to feel better?
Hopper was a quiet man who liked to spend time alone. This influenced his style. He loved to go to the movies by himself. Movie theaters became the scene for many of Hopper's paintings. Hopper's works show the loneliness of American life at the time. Nighthawks, Automat, and Office at Night are good examples of this. Hopper used light and shadow to give a strong mood. Hopper is now known as one of the greatest American realism artists. His works helped to define American art of the 20th century. Check out some of Hopper's works. You'll see why he has earned his place in the history of American art. Word power. Alone. Alone. I don't like going out alone at night. I don't feel safe. I don't like going out alone at night. I don't feel safe. Scene. Scene. Ellie loves to draw scenes of her local beach. Ellie loves to draw scenes of her local beach. Mood. Mood. Ryan is in a bad mood because he has lots of homework to do. Ryan is in a bad mood because he has lots of homework to do. Century. Century. My grandfather moved to the U.S. in the early 20th century, in 1918. My grandfather moved to the U.S. in the early 20th century, in 1918.
认识字汇
Influence. Influence. Painting. Painting. Loneliness. Loneliness. Shadow. Shadow.